What's going on, you beautiful bunch of people? This is the guy from that thing that does the channel that does the thing that you're watching. You get me? Anyway, thought I'd bring another deck profile coming up from set 16 that I've been very on the fence about doing this because like after Nats, after Worlds, yellow is in that really weird limbo spot where we don't know how safe it is to build things because like we got Poutine, Para the Super Saiyan, Bergamo, like all these very impactful cards that are most likely going to get a hit. Vegeta's Final Flash as well. So I've decided to take the approach of this one to showcase what I feel is going to be a safe variant. That means no Final Flash, no Para the Super Saiyan, no Poutine, no Bergamo, and only really playing cards that are most likely going to be safe. The only one exception to that, realistically, is Mecha Frieza, Robotic Riposte, but I honestly don't think this card is going to get hit or errated or anything like that. I think out of everything, this is probably the only questionable one, but it's in here because I don't think it's going anywhere. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get into the, I guess, discussion and breakdown. I'll go over most of the newer cards that are coming out in set 16, and I've got some, I guess, cool tech ideas that could go down here that you could consider running, but let's get on through it. So the leader, on its unawakened side, we're attack, draw one, sweet, we're winning. But then the activate main is a really saucy way of self-awakening. So if you have 2 or more energy and you choose a yellow Vegeta card in your battle area and place it under this card, you can flip this card over, draw 1 card, and then you go down to 6 life. So it's a great way to kind of kickstart and really get a curve going with how this deck operates, because on the awakened side, that's where you generate like a crap ton of card value and a crap ton of pressure. So otherwise we're awakening at 4 or less life and drawing 2 cards and flipping over the same way most leaders will. On the awakened side, on attack, where we may draw 1 card, so we have the choice not to, because if we don't, we can choose 1 yellow Vegeta, 1 yellow Trunks Future, or 1 yellow Bulma card with an energy cost of 1 in our hand or drop area and play it in rest mode. So our targets for those, as you can see, are these 3 cards here, the Bulma here, the Trunks, that's not Trunks, that's Vegeta, I am going blind, and here's the Trunks. So I'll go through them in a bit more detail. We also have got this 1 card down here, which goes all the way back to set 6. Honestly, I think this is like a really good solid addition to the deck. 1, it's an evolve target for the 3-drop, but also this on play just searches top 3 cards for a yellow Saiyan, which, as you can see, there's a lot. There's a lot of yellow Saiyans in this deck. Anyway, to finish breaking down the leader, so we're plussing on the attack, but then also once per turn, when one of our yellow battle cards activates the X Evolve skill, we draw a card. So a lot of people have kind of like compared this to what Kid Icarus does, in the sense that on attack we draw, and then, or not on attack, but it has 1 skill that draws and then a 2nd skill that draws, so we're effectively drawing 2 cards off the leader skill alone, which is fantastic. Now the other part to this, which is why we want to utilize that activate main on the front side to self-awaken quicker, is it's got an activate battle, which is place 1 card from under this card in its owner's drop area. This card gets plus 10k and double strike for the battle. So if we do that, effectively for the duration of our game, our opponent has to always work around the fact that at any given moment we could just drop a double striker, and it's not exactly a double strike that they can interact with. So I guess so long as they're, you know, not blocking it or negating it, but it's a really good thing to have there. Even if you don't use it, just your opponent has to work around it, and that's the simplest part to it. So leader out of the way, let's get on to some of the battle cards. So starting with Bulma being the 1-drop here, we're not really looking to play her using, you know, just paying 1 or even really using the leader. We're here for the activate main. So it's a limit 1, we can only do this once per turn, which is why at the moment I'm only running 3, is you simply discard this card. If our leader card is a mono yellow Trunks Future, we search top 7 for either a Vegeta, a Trunks Future with an energy cost of 3 or less. So we are searching either of these 2 1-drops, either of these 2 3-drops, or this one drop here from the top 7. So the other fact, given that there's a lot of targets that it could not hit, so Turles, the Super Combo, Goku, even the big 8 drop over here, Mecha Frieza, Goku Black, like there's a lot of targets that this inherently isn't going to hit. So it's great because it doesn't cost any energy. If we whiff, alright, we're -1 in hands, so what? But that's another reason why my preference is for this Trunks. It may only search top 3, but literally over half the deck is a target. And this, when we play it, we're also getting the play ready for the 3-drop Trunks, which we'll get to in a second. So going off to the Vegeta and the Trunks, both of them effectively do the same thing. So on play, if our leader card is a yellow Trunks Future, we can do one of two things. We can either draw a card, or we play the other card. So the Vegeta plays the Trunks Father-Son Teamwork from deck or drop area with skills negated for the turn, and vice versa, the Trunks plays the Vegeta Father-Son Teamwork from drop area or deck. So this is really fantastic if you've got, say, one of the 3 drops in hand, but not the other. So say we need to go into the Vegeta, but we only have the Trunks. Sweet, we play the Trunks. And with the way it all works, with the fact that the cost is, if your leader card is a yellow Trunks Future card, that's the cost. So your opponent's going to have to declare whether or not they're countering with any counter really within counter window 1 before we choose whether or not we're drawing the card or we're playing the Trunks. So if they play a counter, we can't get it out, sweet, we'll draw a card instead. Happy days. So those two are fundamentally just the way the engine's working. Now, ratio wise, because we've got the 1-drop Trunks here, I've only got 3 of these. So like ideally we're going to tap 1 for that and pretty much just rely on using the Vegeta to get the Trunks out. Obviously it can work both ways, but overall we're running 6 targets of Trunks and only 4 of the Vegeta, so ratio wise it's fine to have it a little bit lower. Now this is one of the new cards which ultimately, even if Power of the Super Saiyan doesn't get hit, I may just start running this instead. You do have to invest 1 energy into using it, whereas Power of a Super Saiyan you can do for free, but this just does more, like straight up does more. So it's an activate battle. If your leader card is yellow, you choose up to one of your opponents, up to one of your cards, and it gets plus 10k for the battle, then you choose 1. If it's your turn, choose one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode and KO it. If it's your opponent's turn, draw 1 card, then choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards and switch them to rest mode. So like Power of the Super Saiyan, we draw, we rest, but this rests 1 more in addition to that. The other good thing, like comparing this to maybe something like Final Flash, is this just specifies we can choose any of our cards. Whereas Final Flash, we're restricted to battle cards and leader cards, so we can give the buff on this to a unison, which is really nice. Now, moving on to the 3 drops. These 3 drops put in a lot of work. So starting with the Trunks, both of them will effectively do the same thing on X Evolve. So we draw a card, we play it on top of a 1-drop. Now partnering that with the leader card, so leader will draw a card or play a card, then this will draw you a card just for activating X Evolve, and then the leader card will draw you a card for activating X Evolve. So the amount of drawing in this deck is absolutely crazy. But Trunks, we're a barrier blocker, which is fantastic, and then when this card is played using the X Evolve skill, we switch it to active mode. So with like the leader playing the cards in rest and the Vegeta and the Trunks playing cards in rest, we circumvent that. That's fine. We're not worried about that. And then this is where things get a little bit nuts. So its second auto is auto once per turn if your leader card is a yellow Trunks Future card. When your opponent plays a battle card or unison card, choose it and switch it to rest mode. So we got Poutine. I mean, it's not exactly Poutine, because Poutine, it'll trigger on the first play, but you get to choose whichever card you're resting. This one, it is literally when they play a card, it pings that card getting played is what's switched to rest mode. Now, if you're stacking these up, so if you've got like 2 or 3 of these on board, which given it's a barrier blocker, you most likely can, because it's going to trigger all at the one time off that 1 card being played, then all 3 effectively are going to target the 1 card and switch it to rest. So just something to be mindful of. These won't exactly stack up in your favor. Having 3 on board's a pain for your opponent, but it doesn't really give you any more of a boon. Moving on to the Trunks, I'm a dum-dum, the Vegeta. So again, X-Evolve, draw a card on top of the 1-drop, switch this card to active mode if we use it in X-Evolve, and then when this card attacks, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, ignoring barrier, and KO it. So if that slug, that dirty old yellow slug does not get banned, which it really should, then we've got an immediate out to that, which is just awesome. Like, the fact that we KO anything no level cap and it ignores barrier, this is just an absolutely crazy value card, and stacking these up, just being able to kill off as many things as we need to is just, it's really, really good value. Now, moving on to the big SR boss monster of the archetype. Now, I'm on the fence about this one, like a little bit on the fence about it. It comes out for cheap, like for 2 energy effectively it comes out for cheap, but you have to relinquish one of your Vegetas and Trunks that are already in your battle area, and they go onto the card as it's been played. So with the fact that it's not exactly like a reliable means of playing it, if your opponent is controlling your board and only keeping Trunkses on the field and getting rid of your Vegetas, this just becomes a dead card in hand, which if you guys checking out any of the gameplay that we have in playtesting this deck, you'll probably notice, although we're running it, we never actually really get it out. And it's because there's generally better things we can invest 2 energy into as opposed to playing this. Like, it's good. It's good. With its activate battle, it's a limit 1. You place the 2 cards from under this in its owner's drop area, draw a card, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, KO them, and then this card gains triple strike for the battle. So, like, going in for triple strike crit, drawing a card, clearing 2 cards off, it's a lot of great value. It's just, it's a little unreliable, and it also doesn't have barrier or deflect, so it's not guaranteed to actually be doing something. So that's my take on that. I wouldn't rely on that to win the game, is what I'm kind of saying there. Now, coming up to what is really the last card from set 16 that we're running is this monster. Like, sometimes I wonder what's going on in, like, Bandai's head when they're creating some of these cards, and, like, like, yellow is just becoming this massive toolbox worth of just yellow cards that generically work because they're yellow. And this is just another prime example of that. So the permanent, this card is also treated as blue. That's not relevant for us in this deck. That's relevant for the Zamasu Goku Black Wish deck. Now, auto, limit 1. If your leader card is yellow, when you play this card, choose up to one of your opponent's non-leader cards and switch it to rest mode. Like, why? Like, yellow's got enough tap down of shit like unisons and battle cards and energy, God knows it, that we don't need to add more to it. Like, I love playing yellow, but adding more to it, and this is just going to place like a 15k body on board, and we can get it out really easily. So its activate main for 1 is you send this card to its owner's warp, you draw a card, and then choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards and KO them. That's all well and good. That's not what's really flash about it in this deck. It's its activate battle which gets it out for cheap. So for 2, if there are 2 or more blue and or yellow cards in your battle area or combo area, you play this card from your hand or your warp. Now, playing it from its hand, that would have just been fun. Like, the card is still really bonkers good at just playing from hand, but the fact that you can play this from your warp, like, it's just like, alright, I'll just warp this away with, like, Secret Identity or something like that, get it out of my drop for free, maybe use a Bardock, like, plenty of ways to get this from your drop to your warp for free. Then you can just play it from your warp. Just, alright, fair enough. Anyway, running this card at 3 because, like, yeah, enough said. The card is good. It's definitely going to be a staple in almost every yellow deck. Like, it's broken in the Zamasu Wish deck because you warp it as a cost to get a draw 2 cards. Then you can play it from your warp. It's just, I don't know. I'm done with it. Now to wrap up the rest of the deck is somewhat your standard yellow support. So we've got your 4 Mecha Frieza Riposte, we've got 3 Turles because we're a yellow Saiyan leader, we've got 3 Frieza Army Reinforcements, we've got the Krillin Super Combo, which is honestly the best super combo for the deck. You could run some split with Zamasu. There's not really much of a benefit to do that because you can tap down so much anyway. We've got the Son Goku counterplay Steadfast. Again, fantastic card for yellow. And then before we get to the boss monsters, unison wise, I feel like you don't really need a unison because there's not really anything in this deck that spirit boosts, and you're going to apply a lot of pressure through your leader and through your battle cards, but having a unison there, I feel this one is probably your safest bet. One, because it's really good spot removal, as well as trying to get around pesky pesky blockers that fill up the board, but also being able to go neg3, draw a card, and then warp the board and choose everything on your opponent's board in rest mode, KO it, is good. But these two I feel like are your 2 most likely boss monsters to go off. So Fu Shrouded in Mystery, everyone knows him, either loves him or hate him, just shuts down your opponent from activating skills outside of their leader card, which is what it is. Now, as far as the secret rare slot of this deck goes, finally I feel like we have a deck that utilizes this very, very well. So you could run Pan, you could run Kai, you could run Heroine's Lineage. This, given that it's just been reprinted from the Mythic booster box, is now a much more accessible secret rare than most of the other ones are. And just getting the alt art reprint, not the alt art, but just the normal reprint, is really cheap compared to what any other secret rare goes for. It's really quite cheap. So the fact that we can play this for free on using Successor, the way the deck works, you're most likely going to get to turn 5, so the errata of getting quadruple strike only if you 5 or more energy is not a problem. And you're able to accumulate so much board presence to easily get the 12 energy, because we got 3 cost, 3 cost, 3 cost, 3 cost here and here. If we play this and we've got any of the 3 costs on board and we just play a 1-drop, then we've got it. It's very easy to get 12 energy very safely in this deck. And rip 3 cards blindly out of your opponent's hand, that's good. And then, of course, the dual attack quadruple strike, at that, if you rip out negates from their hand and they're left with nothing, everyone who has come up against this card in seeing that knows that it's most likely going to win the game at that point. So that wraps up the deck fundamentally with where I feel it's safely at. Of course, if we don't see all the yellow staples outside of this getting hit, then by all means chuck them in and take out some of the other things, but ultimately this is where I feel like it's going to be a safe build. Now to wrap up a couple of things, I've got a couple of other little niche tech things or sideboard options that might be good. One being this Mai. So this is all the way back from set 2, but simply if we have a Trunks Future in our battle area or leader area, you can play this card for free. It's a free blocker. So if we want to go super defensive and super control-y, it's a free blocker with no energy investment whatsoever, simply because our leader on both sides is a Trunks Future. Tyrannical Blow is something I usually main in yellow. A lot of people don't because it can be kind of niche, but considering this deck goes wide, having something that's able to stop a floodgate is going to be really good. The only thing this doesn't really stop is Oceanus. And that's because Oceanus, the skill procs during the counter window and part of the counter resolving, and all it has to do is just play the card. It doesn't really care if the card's negated or anything like that. So, but this will stop Mecha Frieza, it'll stop Topo, it'll stop the green Boo, it'll stop all of that, which is nice. Now, if you were running other unisons, this has always been a solid pick. Most people know what it does. We're really here for the -1. So your opponent can't attack with battle cards with energy cost greater than their current energy until the end of their next turn. And with the activate main at the top, you choose this card or one of your battle cards, switch it to rest mode at a marker. So you're usually just kind of looping that. Switch this to rest, -1. Next turn, switch this to rest, -1. So unless they can kill it, it pretty much stops them from going really tall really quickly and you suffering for it. Now, this unison here is something that could be kind of neat, and it's a 1-cost unison, so if you did run it, you could then run other like unison-based cards like Dragon Fist or the Vegeta counterplay. But this one I use in Golden Freezer quite a lot. Like, we've got one of our gameplays up of the Red Universe 7 where I kind of show what this card can do a little bit, but it's mostly here for this +1. So play one battle card with one yellow battle card with an energy cost of 1 from your drop area in rest mode with its skills negated. Now there's some really, I guess, nice synergy with that, considering that if we want to just use the draw in this, then we draw a card. If we have this in play, we +1, we play one of the 1-drop Vegetas or Trunkses into our battle area, and then we can X-Evolve. And considering when we X-Evolve, they come into active, it's just a nice little bit of synergy there. Like, it's weak being at 5k, so like little things can attack into it and kill it easily, but it's still a good value card. Like, it can help your deck run a little bit smoother, but it doesn't necessarily need it to run smoother. Anyway, that kind of wraps up this little deck profile. Thank you for everyone who stuck around. The link to the deck will be in the description below, and if you have any suggestions, comments, hateful criticisms that will burden my soul forever, drop them below. Peace out.